Hey everyone, Brad here from Heavy Diesel Softworks, and today we're going to continue on with part 2 of our magazine firearm tutorial. So in part 1, we got the meshes ready in Maya with the skeletons for each thing that needed a skeleton, and then we exported them. One thing I have to say about the last tutorial that I forgot to do is for the bullet and the shell, I forgot to zero out their bones values. So I went back and did that and then exported them again. So if you also did not zero out their variables, you should do that as well before we continue on. But if you're ready to go, let's go ahead and get the AKM into Unreal, and we will start getting it ready to use. I'm going to create a new folder in my meshes folder for the AKM, and then I'm going to do an import. Let's see. Ah, there we go. Oh, I'm stupid. I had it on the tutorial file. Here we go. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of these FBX files and import them. They do need to be imported as a skeletal mesh. Set the skeleton to none. For the physics asset, set it to none, and make sure create physics asset is unchecked. We want to import our normals, all that good stuff. Looking good, looking good. And the reason why we're not going to allow it to create a physics asset is we're going to go in and create our own. It's a little bit cleaner that way. So go ahead and hit import all. And we will get a mesh and a skeleton for each of our parts. And it's also going to import the textures or the materials that you have set in Maya for the weapon. So starting off, let's take a look at the body. So here's our body mesh. We're going to go ahead and set its sockets. So open up the body mesh. The body message. I can't talk right now. The body meshes skeleton. There we go. Alright. And if you need a helper to know exactly what sockets to add, go down to the physical rifle or the physical shotgun. Actually, it doesn't matter which one. The pistol is probably going to be the closest since it is also a non-reciprocating weapon, so we'll go with that. Alright. So, for the pistol, as you can see, we have all the parts, and then we have all these sockets. And these sockets are where we're going to attach things. So for our slide attach socket, that's actually where the slide is attaching to the gun. As you can see, it's actually previewing the actual mesh for the top part. So we're going to go and I'm going to move this off to the side, and we're going to add these sockets. If you have a second screen, it's nice to have this open on the another screen so it's easier to see. So we added a bolt attachment joint right there. So we're going to add a socket to this joint. And we're going to call it the slide attach socket. And we're going to come in here. and we're going to add a preview asset. Go ahead and make AKM because that's the name designator, and we're going to select the bolt carrier group. And as you see, it comes in and it's facing down, so we need to rotate this socket 90 degrees. And as you can see, that now lines up correctly. If we were to move the actual joint, it would move back correctly. So now we've made that attach correctly. We need to move on to the next socket. So we will select, let's see, go ahead and just select the handle, and we will add the muzzle socket. So add socket to the handle. We'll call it the muzzle socket. And this socket needs to be placed wherever the bullet is going to be fired from. So in this case, the barrel. Put it right there. And if you want to see how it should be arranged, we'll select the muzzle socket here. You need to make sure that the X is pointing out. Oops. So it's going to fire along the X axis. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to rotate this 90 degrees that way, so X is pointing directly out. So muzzle is good to go. Now we need a what's called a mag load socket, and go ahead and, there we go. Now the mag load socket is where the actual collision box for detecting if the mag is all the way up inside the weapon and ready to load. That's where this is going to go. It is not where the mag is going to attach to the weapon. So in this case, the mag socket actually attaches up here, but the mag load socket is a little bit lower. So let's add a mag load socket to the handle of the AKM. And we're going to want to put this for AKs. It's fairly simple. This is generally going to be right here in your box for and you'll be able to make some changes to it, to the actual collision box, once we have everything in the blueprint. But for right now, there's your mag load socket. Now let's go ahead and do our mag socket, which is the socket that the actual mag attaches to. And we created a magazine joint already, so we're going to add a socket to that and call it the mag socket. And then we're going to do a preview asset for it. Search AKM again, and we're going to choose the AKM magazine. And now we need to rotate the socket 90 degrees, or just rotate it however it needs it to be. It's usually 90. It usually comes in off rotation. But now you can see that our magazine is perfectly aligned. And obviously these previews don't go through towards gameplay. You're actually going to be attaching these things in the blueprint or physically attaching them in game. So, but this gets all the sockets ready, so everything is a-okay for positioning wise. Alright, now what's next? Ooh, we need to do the shell ejection socket. So when you fire, oops, didn't mean to do that. Ah, crap. Let me rotate my socket again. And then save so we don't have any issues. When you fire a AK, excuse me, I've got a little bit of a cough. The bullet is going to eject from the right side right there. So let's take a socket and we're going to add this socket to the handle, and we're going to call this the shell eject socket. And for this socket, we are going to add a preview asset of AKM bullet. And then, see the bullet right there. Interesting. My bullet, I may have pulled in the wrong bullet. As you can see, if you do not zero out your, I must have pulled in the actual wrong bullet, but if you don't zero out your bullet, it's not gonna, or if you don't zero out a mesh, it's gonna be off center when you add it, which can be worked with, but also sort of creates a mess. So let's see if we can fix that real fast. Let's go into our meshes, AKM, bullet. Let me see. I'm gonna do a test. See something right here. AKM test. Because I do have. Let's import 12 files. Let's import this bullet. Skeletal mesh. Good. Import all. Skeleton. Bullet 2. Alright, so the AKM bullet 2, I imported the wrong bullet for bullet, but for your thing it should be fine, as long as, for your gun it should be fine, as long as you have zeroed out your bullet. And I'm going to go ahead and import in this other shell too, and I'm going to check it to make sure it's zeroed out good. This is a good learning experience for y'all too. Of why you want to zero out your bone's position in Maya or in Blender. Because if not, it's not going to be directly positioned on the socket when you create it in here. So let's add a shell to AKM shell 2, and as you can see, it is also in the correct position. If I had to delete the bullet, it'll. So those are what we want right there. So we're actually going to, I'm going to call this Go to meshes. Instead of AKM test, I'm going to call this AKM bullet and bullet. I'm going to call it bullet. Shell, bullet, same thing. I'm going to go back to my AKM. I'm going to delete the bullet and the bullet skeleton, the shell and the shell skeleton. We don't need them anymore. It's going to close down my stuff, but that's fine. I'll just reopen the skeleton. We'll go to our shell eject socket. We will add the AKM bullet 2, and we'll change its name here in a second too. But now we are good to go, and we fixed our issue. Now we want to eject this using this orientation. Pretty much right. Let's pull this back slightly. Let's grab our bolt attach joint. Copy that so I remember where it is, just in case. Move it back. The gun has fired. And we need to move our shell eject a little bit up towards the back. Probably about right there. A little bit outside of it. Alright, so our a full bullet, if you pull back, if you're just trying to eject the actual bullet from the gun, if you pull back on the slide, full bullet will eject there, or a shell will eject there after it's fired. Okay, that looks good. And you won't, the player won't be able to, it's going to happen so fast, the player won't be able to tell if it actually starts inside or slightly outside. I prefer it to be slightly outside, just in case there's some collision issue with the gun itself. In fact, it probably is better to move it even farther away from the collision mesh of where the gun is going to be, the mesh of the gun. And we'll be doing that in just a second. So we've got a shell eject socket. Let me open up my stuff again since everything closed when I deleted that. Let's see what's next. We have a side attachment socket. Now, if you one second. Yeah, if you remember correctly, when we were setting this up, we said this gun doesn't take attachments, obviously. It doesn't have any Picatinny rails or anything, but we wanted to show an attachment. So we're going to have a side attach socket that we're going to add at the side attachment joint. It's called side, or we're going to call it a side socket. Not side attach socket, just side socket. Just like that. And then we're going to add a preview asset, and we're going to use the flashlight. And then we're going to rotate the actual socket so that the flashlight orients correctly. And we're going to move it out slightly. It's going to look a little weird because there's no Picatinny rail there, but if you had a Picatinny rail, you would fit the flashlight on the rail as you would want it. So now whenever you attach a flashlight to this, it will attach in the correct position and the correct orientation. Let's see if there's anything else right now we need to do with the sockets. We got the mag load. No, I think that's correct. So we can go ahead and save this. And then we will move on to the next thing. I'm going to go ahead and save everything right now. Alright, so now we're going to create the skeleton for the slide. Now here's our pistol slide, as you can see. And it's going to have two sockets, an interaction socket and a bullet socket. Let's see. I'm going to make sure we need the men. Let's see. 1 second. Meshes. So shotgun. Shotgun bolt group. Yeah. That reminds me. Something I forgot. We need to add one more socket to the gun. We need to add an offhand socket. So let's go ahead and do that before messing with the bolt. EKM body. We're going to add a socket to the handle. We're going to call it a offhand socket. We're going to add a preview asset. Let's see. Will hand give me something? Mesh. There we go. You see we got a hand there. And we will go ahead and pretend it's a left-handed person using this for now, because we're really going to set this later on, but it can be helpful to, at the very least, get it in the right location. I'm going to zero out the X for right now. But we're going to move, we're going to actually set the hand position later on. But that's about where you would grip, so we'll leave it there for now. And go ahead and save. I'll save all. Close it. We're going to open up the bolt carrier group. And for the we're going to add two sockets to this. One is a bullet socket, and the other is the interaction socket. Where you're going to add a bullet to the bullet socket so we can get it positioned correctly. So we will go to AKM, it's still bullet 2, rotate it 90 degrees, and while it's hard to tell in this, bullet is going to go right about here, and we can adjust this again once we have everything in the blueprint. And now we need to place the interaction socket. This is where the actual where we want to interact with the gun, and that's going to be this little handle right here. This is what you'll be grabbing. Place it right there. Alright, and now we're good with our sockets with our bolt carrier group. Go ahead and take a look at the magazine. This magazine is going to be a little bit more basic than the ones that are already in Weapon Master, but I will show you how to do it. Let's take a look at the 5.56 mag. Alright. So we've got a bullet socket for the first bullet, a bullet socket for the second bullet. These are used to show if the gun has one bullet, more than one bullet, or no bullets. We have an ammo count socket, which is for the actual UI on the gun, or sorry, on the magazine. So those are our three sockets that we need. Alright, let's go back here. We need add a socket to just go ahead and add it to the actual bone, the base bone. And we'll call it bullet 1 socket. And then we'll create another one, add socket, bullet 2 socket. And we will add a preview asset to both of those of a bullet, of the AKM bullet to be specific, if I can talk correctly. And we'll rotate those correctly so that they're on the right. And we will position them. Usually you're gonna, in the future this is gonna be done in Maya, because all of the bullet, we want to move to using a bullet animation. Unless you want this more simple way, we're gonna leave the simple version of this as well for the people that want to use it. But it's more realistic if everything is done with an animation, because in the magazine there's a spring that pushes these bullets up. And I'm just getting them aligned correctly so they fit in the magazine. Well, that's probably good enough. Good enough for now. Now we need to add one more socket, and it is the ammo count socket. I'm going to put this on the outside of and you'll be adjusting this later when we have this mag as an actual blueprint. We'll be adjusting that again. So that looks good for now. I'll move on to the next phase. File, save all. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Now we need to, for the bullet, look at the 45. We do have one socket on the bullet. It is the load check socket. It's used for when loading it into the magazine, and in 1.1 it'll also be used for loading directly into the gun. Into the actual bolt of the gun, sorry, I should say. For things like bolt, single loader, bolt actions, and stuff like that. But let's go ahead and add our, I'm going to leave this right over here. And we'll go to our meshes, ACAM bullet, and remove the 2 on these since we don't need them anymore. And the shell does not need any sockets. It is oops, no, I don't want that. I want the skeleton. Alright. We will add a socket, and it is a load check socket. And we will mess with its position. Actually, let's just go ahead and put it in the middle for now. That works. Hit save. Alright. Now, we need to do the, if you look at, let's say, the pistol. Where's my physical pistol? We need to do the physics asset for it. And this can be kind of difficult. It is not a simple physics asset. You do have to set up collision correctly, because in the near future I'm going to have collision, or we're going to be adding collision between magazines and the gun, so that you actually have to put them in correctly. But we're going to go ahead and set the gun up for that right now, so that in the future it'll be like a seamless transition. So let's go ahead and make the physics asset for the body. You're not going to need one for the carrier group. You will need one for the magazine, but we're going to start with the body. Create physics asset. Just hit OK. And then I generally go through and delete everything that it automatically adds. So there should be nothing. We're going to add every one of these different physics pieces to the handle, so that they all move together and they don't, when you simulate physics, it doesn't just, the different pieces don't just fall apart. So we're going to start with a box. And this box has tried to orient itself, but I don't like its positioning, so we're gonna do this little handle here first. And what we're gonna be doing is just covering the entire mesh with boxes and spinels and other such things. Spherals, I think that's what they actually are. We'll add another box. Now, we're going to add a box right here. There are more precise ways to do collision. This is the easiest and the most performance friendly. When you get more precise, you get a bit more performance slots, but that's going to be up to you in your game. So this is going to make up this back part of where the mag goes in, as you can see. And turn this down so I'm moving too fast. Alright. Let's go ahead and do the upper body portion. And again, we have to stop at the mag well so that we don't create collision where the mag needs to go up in there. Create another box. I'm going to rotate this one to kind of follow the back of the gun there. That looks pretty good. And we're just going to keep adding boxes until we've got this thing covered. I'm going to turn off my snapping so I can get some better angles here. I'm going to make this a little thinner. And you're going to be coming and messing with your collision quite a bit, so for right now it doesn't have to be super perfect. I don't really like this right here though. Let's bring that in, and actually I want to make this a bit smaller. Let's see what we can do here. Let's add a spheral. Boom. Let's see if we can get a little bit better collision right here. Since the top of the gun does have a somewhat spherical shape. Let's actually bring this down to there. Not perfect, but that will do. We'll do the same with this. Yeah, that'll do. Alright. Set a box. And yeah, this is going to take a little while, so take your time, put some music on, enjoy it. If anybody's doing this and thinking, man, Brad, you There's so much of a better way to do this. Please let me know. I'm still learning a lot of the physics part of Unreal. So I'm not going to claim to be a master of physics asset creation. And you may want to, I'm going to do this, I'm already seeing this is going to take quite a bit, so I'm going to do like a quicker version. So if you want to pause and do like a much better version than what I'm going to do, you can do that. But I'm going to try and speed this along so we can move on. And the important part is coming up right here. And the sides of the magwell, you don't want to cover them up. So you want to make it thin. And then give it the sides. This is angled some. Actually right here I'm going to leave this hole open too. So we'll shrink this down. It's got some collision right here, but I think I want to leave that hole open. I'm going to go all the way up like that. There we go. Now we can put a, we've got this box going up as the back. We've got two sides. Now we just need a front of the magwell. So we will put this right there. This will be our front. box. We'll finish it off with a couple sphere, however you say that word, for the barrel. I'm going to duplicate it. Bring it over. Fill this one in. And then let's do one more box. And if you ever want to test to see how it works, hit simulate, pick it up, toss it around. Looking pretty good. So we will save. We'll stop the simulation. We'll save. Close that one out. We'll go back to the AKM body. We'll go down to the physics asset. Oh, sorry, you can't see that. It's on another screen. AKM body. We'll go down to the physics asset. AKM body physics. Save that. And now we are going to do the same thing for the magazine. Create a physics asset. That's fine. Bring this over here. delete whatever it made automatically. And we're going to do a new body, a box. And this is a weird shape, but we're going to do the best we can do. You want to make the mag kind of a little bit less thin, or a little bit more thin than the actual mesh, so it'll fit in correctly and eject correctly from the magwell. I'm gonna duplicate these. I don't know why it puts them out to the side when you duplicate them, but it's not that hard to fix. If you want a more perfect curve, you can make your boxes smaller. But this is gonna work for us, I think. So and if you need a test, appears to be working good. Hit save, or actual stop simulating. Then we'll hit save. File, save all, save everything. We'll close out the physics. We'll open up the magazine. We'll go down to the physics asset, AKM magazine physics. Hit save. And now we will do the very simple physics message that I can't talk. Meshes. For the bullets in the shell. Again, we're going to delete all the stuff it made. We're going to start off with a whatever that word is. And this is going to be the main piece of the bullet. And because we want these bullets to be able to stand up, we're going to add a box to them as well. A small-ish box to the very bottom. And that should allow them. Let's see, I need to make this a bit smaller. Maybe slightly longer. That'll work. Go ahead and simulate. Oh, oops. I just sent that one flying. I don't think I can pick it up. Maybe I can. Make it. it'll stand up, I promise. It's hard to do it in this. So we'll save file, save all, close out the physics for that, and then one last one. We will create a physics asset for the shell. That's fine, whatever. Let's get in here. I'm actually going to delete that. I don't like that you are rotated, but whatever. And it doesn't really matter if the shells stand up. They're just being fired out of the gun and then they disappear. They're not used for anything other than for decoration, really. So, simulate. Yep, that's a shell doing its thing. Save all. Okay, so we've got our skeletons. We've got our... Alright. Alright, yeah, we've got them ready to go for the blueprints. Well, we've got the AKM ready to go for the blueprint. We're sitting at 57 minutes right now. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one short, and the very next one we'll get started on actually getting the blueprint set up for the AKM so we can go ahead and get it into the game and start using it. So that'll be it for this video, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks.